So the end of last year saw a number of new graphics cards, GPUs come out from AMD and Nvidia. And the one that most people have been talking about, of course, has been Nvidia and the RTX 4090. Initially, I didn't think I was going to get one. I have an RTX 2080. It was doing its job. I play at 1440p. I'm not playing any 4K gaming. Even with ultra wide, it's not that bad. So I didn't really think I would get one. But I started seeing all these reviews pop up, how the game runs in 4K, DLSS 3, all the new technology, and I kind of fell for it. My upgrade path was a little weird. I'm gonna take a little bit of time to kind of go over what happened. So I kind of decided, you know what, I want to get an RTX 4090, but I should also upgrade my CPU. So I got the new AMD Ryzen 7 7700X that just came out as well. Turns out that for that I needed a new motherboard, which had to be an AM5 motherboard or an AMD motherboard because I used an Intel before. Got a new motherboard. Turns out that motherboard also needed new RAM, the DDR5 RAM. With the new CPU, it also meant I had to get a new cooler. Basically, I built a new PC at the end of the day. So once I had built this new PC that I wasn't supposed to initially, I was kind of waiting for, the RTX 4090, when it would come out or when it would be made available in some sense because the price was kind of high. And I wasn't sure if Nvidia would stick with that price, but they did. So I was just kind of waiting around and seeing what would happen, especially when the 4080 was supposed to launch right after it. So in Canada, we have Canada Computers, which is kind of our version of Micro Center of sorts. And I went in and just kind of let them know that, hey, I want to get the RTX 4090. Can I put myself on a wait list? And they're like, yep, you can put yourself on a wait list, but obviously it's going to be a long list. It's going to be a long wait. And they asked me like a specific 4090 that I wanted to kind of pre-order or put myself on the wait list for. So the one that I saw pop up the most was the Gigabyte 4090 OC edition. So I put my name on there thinking I'll probably get a call from them a month later or something like that. Fast forward 24 hours later, I got a call from them that they have a 4090 OC edition Gigabyte one available and I can go pick it up. And I was like, okay, I was not expecting this. I did not also expect to spend this much money in 24 hours, but look, it's here. I'm gonna go get it. Went and got my RTX 4090. The box does not do it justice because you can imagine just by this, the GPU is huge. It is crazily huge. I don't even know if you can put those two words together, but it is huge. And that brought me to another problem. Turns out that my current case for my PC was not big enough. So I had to go out and buy a new case. Like I said, I basically built a new PC. Right behind this camera is my old PC in my old case. So I literally took everything out of that case, put everything in, the new stuff in. Then I had to take all the new stuff out and put it into my new case. It was just a whole thing. It was kind of fun because I do like building PCs. But again, it was a whole thing. If I knew all this beforehand, I probably would have avoided a couple of headaches. But whatever, we're at this point now, I have a new PC or two PCs. So of course, I got the RTX 4090 and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start jumping in, playing some games, seeing what all this is about, DLSS 3, this and that, all the bells and whistles, firecrackers and all that. Start playing the games and the games ran really well. Like they were running at 100 whatever frames per second. I think my monitor is 144 behind me and ultra wide is 165, if I'm not mistaken. Might be the other way around, but the games were running really, really well, especially when I would push it into like DLSS 3, stuff like that. It would run really well and would play great. I played through Portal RTX and everything like that, ray tracing and all that, amazing, looked beautiful. I was just wowed. I'm like, wow, this is the future of gaming. Went through a bit of Fortnite as well with the Unreal Engine 5, tried that out, played Gotham Knights, just a bunch of games just to kind of really push this GPU. I'm not gonna go over any benchmarks or anything like that. This is not that channel. This is not that space. This is more about me speaking from consumer to consumer, PC lover to PC lover, in terms of whether or not the RTX 4090 is really worth your time and your investment. And kind of coming out of all of this, I'm mixed. I'm mixed. I don't know if it was because of the hype or because of the way it was positioned. I was expecting it to just kind of fully blow me away. Now it does, of course, set me up for the future in a way. Any new game that comes out this year, next year, I'll be good. It'll be a good time and all that stuff. It'll run really well. But still, my RTX 2080 for my 1440p monitor was still doing good. That comes to my first point with this. RTX 4090 is kind of designed for people that really want to push 4K gaming. Doesn't mean that if you have a 1440p monitor, you won't get the best out of it. You will actually max it out. You'll be hitting the highest frames possible with everything maxed out and have a really, really good time. But it is clearly designed for people that have a 4K monitor or have an LG C2 on their monitor station area so that they can play these games in 4K. So which is obviously kind of leading me into possibly getting a 4K monitor. But I'm gonna control myself. I've already spent too much. Of course, on top of that, there's other group of people that use this graphics card for video editing, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of other use cases for these GPUs, and that you could kind of fit in that mold. But again, coming down to just gaming, the 4090 is great. The price is just a little too high. A little too high looking back at it. DLSS 3, all that stuff is great. It really does kind of, you know, push the boundaries in terms of what the game looks like with that, you know, machine learning, AI stuff, whatever Nvidia is doing on their side. It does really push it, and you know, it's kind of seamless in terms of how the game looks in that resolution, even if it's not actually in that resolution. But again, it just comes down to kind of falling for this whole buy a new GPU every 2 years kind of a thing. Even though I bought mine 4 years later. Like, look, I'm talking to you. You know who you are. We all fall for this when it comes to, you know, these new graphics cards and new PC components that come out, and kind of just want to jump on the newest thing to just get that extra 5, 10, 15 FPS. In my case, RTX 2080 to 4090 was a pretty big jump because there were a lot of games that were running really well at 1440p, but I did have to kind of push stuff to medium, low, high, ultra, stuff like that. In this case, I can just push everything all the way to ultra or high, and I'll be getting all kinds of frames per second. It will just be running amazingly. So RTX 2082, that was really good. But again, when I look back into, you know, the image quality of the RTX 2080 to the 4090, you know, you do see difference, but it's not difference that makes you say, yeah, you know what, this $2,000, at least in Canada, that I spent is really, really worth it. I could have survived on my RTX 2080 for a little while longer. The other part that I kind of keep thinking about, and it kind of comes up when I'm playing a game, is once you kind of immerse in a game and you're playing it, you don't really think about all this, you know, bells and whistles and everything like that. Sure, when I see some cool, you know, area that's ray traced in Portal, I'm like, yeah, that looks really cool. But then when you start playing the puzzles, you start actually playing the game, you don't really care about that anymore. So you do have to kind of take that into consideration, that whether, you know, you're kind of looking at this as an investment for the future, or if you have a 30 series card, do you really need to get this? Do you really feel that extra 40, 50 FPS that you might get, the DLSS 3, all that stuff is really worth your time? Because at the end of the day, it's all about playing the game, and you know, the game is still enjoyable as it is, as long as you're able to play it in a proper fashion. Now, I know I've already kind of been down on RTX 4090 just to kind of start off with, but I did want to level set in terms of where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the position of just being an average consumer, a person that enjoys playing PC games, and communicating this to you in a way that it might seem this is something that you need immediately, but you honestly don't, and you can kind of wait for it. But if you do have an RTX 4090, or if you are planning to get one and you do get one, it's not like you'll be disappointed. It's not like you will say, you know what, this was a horrible investment, because I'm still, you know, enjoying. I could go return it, but I'm not. I'm keeping my RTX 4090 because at the end of the day, I am looking at it in terms of the future. It has DLSS 3. It will be running all my games at 1440p or in ultra wide, whatever maxed out thing that I need at the highest frames per second. And when I do get a 4K monitor, especially with the new OLED monitors that are coming out this year, I'll probably put that in this area, and then it'll be perfect. I can play in 4K and an OLED screen, and that'll be awesome. So as I mentioned, that the GPU is kind of huge. And one of the reasons for that is the crazily huge heatsink that's on it. Now, that heatsink also means that the temperatures of this GPU are just amazing. It idles around like 38 degrees or so in my case. I'm also in Canada and it's really cold here, but it's like idling around 38. And when I'm gaming, the max I've seen it go on something that's on ultra, pushing it all the way, was between like 55 to 60, maybe a little bit higher than 60. But usually, I've never seen that with my RTX 2080. With my RTX 2080, it will many times go kind of high depending on what I'm playing, and I would have to have like a manual curve that I make for the fan so that the temperatures would stay below 85. The other thing a lot of people have been kind of worrying about are the connectors, and when it comes to how you actually put this into your PC and also how it connects to the power supply. The connectors, you kind of get this adapter that has these 4 slots, and these 4 slots will go into a PCIe cable going into your power supply. The power supply wise, I have an 850 watt power supply, which I was worried wouldn't be enough. I am here to say that it is. Basically, it will not give it the full power. It will give it the 100% of the power, but if you want to overclock your GPU, you won't be able to, which is fine. I don't plan on overclocking my GPU. But the main thing what you have to do in cases like these are connect 3 power supply cables into those connector slots. So there's 4, you just connect 3. Yeah, I just quickly checked, it is 3. Now the elephant in the room, or the connector in the room, I guess, is a connector that goes into the GPU itself. The one that kind of people have been talking about as causing all these burning issues, stuff like that. I'm here to say that I had phantom burning, which is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to trademark that. It's where, because of all the people talking about this, I keep thinking that I'm smelling burning in my PC area, when in fact nothing's burning. So that has happened a couple of times. I've turned my PC off, taken the connector out, and it was fine. There was no problem, nothing at all. Did it again, like I think a couple of weeks after that. Since then, I've kind of controlled myself, gotten some help, and basically I'm not looking at it anymore. But main thing I want to say is that I haven't really had that issue. I know a lot of people that have had that issue have reached out to Nvidia or the GPU partners and everything like that to kind of have that resolved. And usually it has been resolved, which is great. But I just want to say that, it is definitely an issue. Make sure that it is connected really, really well. So I did that, like when I was putting it in initially, because I had read about this, I really jammed that in there. I really pushed with my full might. I went to the gym beforehand, came back and pushed it in, made sure I got all my workout out. Just make sure that it is fully connected when you hear that click, and you should be good. If you feel like something is wrong, disconnect, take it out. Just take it out and check. That's what I did when I had that phantom burning thing happening. I just took it out. I'm like, yep, you know what? It's all good. It's okay to, I know there's like a limit in terms of how many times you can disconnect it and reconnect it. But in this specific case, take it out if you're a little worried. Make sure it's okay and plug it back in. Obviously, don't do it too much, because you also need to kind of, stop yourself from doing that all the time. But in most cases, it should be okay. So the RTX 4090, at the end of the day, is an amazing GPU. It is a beast. It is the best GPU out there right now. But again, is this a GPU that you would want to get? If you have a 30 series GPU, 3080, 3090, 3070, whatever it may be, I don't think that you need to get a 4090 right now or a 40 series card. The DLSS 3 and stuff like that is great, but the 30 series cards still run most modern games really, really well in 1440p and in 4K. You just gotta tweak a couple of things here and there, and you're good. And DLSS on those are still pretty good. DLSS 2 is still amazing, so you don't necessarily need one. If you have a 20 series card, again, I will still think about it. If you are at the 2080 Ti range and you're gaming in 1440p, maybe even 4K a little bit, I think if you're gaming in 4K in the 20 series thing, I would kind of consider getting a 30 series card if you can find one, or the 4090 at that point, or 40 series card. But if you're still gaming at 1440p with a 20 series card, you're honestly good. You can tweak enough stuff that you will be fine, and you'll be hitting, 60 FPS, even probably more than that actually. It honestly does not matter at that point. If you have a 10 series card, if you're on a 1070, 1060, and you want to get the next thing, again, I would first go to the 30 series cards if you can find that on discount, because they are heavily discounted. But if you're like, you know what, no, I want the brand new thing, then yeah, make the jump to the 40 series. You waited long enough at this point. I think that jump will be worthwhile. It's just hard for me to recommend it for everyone in the 20 series, and basically everyone in the 30 series card, anyone that has those GPUs. Makes more sense if you're kind of coming from the 10 series or something before that. Price obviously is a big factor. 1,600 USD, like in my case, I think it was 2,200 Canadian dollars before tax. So it's a hefty price. It's pretty expensive. But like, again, it does come down to your investment in this and whether or not, this is something that you enjoy. As you can see from all the stuff around me, I love this kind of stuff. I love this sort of tech stuff, GPUs, CPUs, gaming, all this stuff, cameras and all that stuff. I enjoy these kinds of things, which is why, I put my money aside for these kinds of things. I will plan accordingly for something like the GPU as well, where, I will put money aside to get the GPU, because I'm like, yeah, you know what, I enjoy this. For an average consumer, for someone that's just getting into PC gaming, or someone that just kind of games on the PC just occasionally, I cannot recommend this. I cannot recommend you get an RTX 40 series card, especially at those prices. I would instead recommend getting one of the AMD cards that are reasonably priced, or even in terms of Nvidia, if you want to stick with Nvidia for the ray tracing and all that, get a 30 series card. The 30 series cards right now are so cheap. There's so many of them are heavily discounted, and if you get like a 3060 Ti or 3070, you're gonna be good on 1440p gaming for a long while. So I would recommend sticking with the older generation of that one. Thank you everyone for joining. Really means a lot. I hope you enjoyed this mini review of mine. I'll be doing a few more of these here and there because I do kind of like talking about some of the new products that I picked up. But we'll be back with some more videos next time with something to do more with gaming actually. So see you next time everyone. Bye.